I know, before I can prove it. That's the part they never write about. The weeks before you have evidence when you just know, the way you know weather, something in the angle of a room. The specific way a man who used to look at you crosses a lobby with his hand at the small of another woman's back, 2 inches lower than professional, and then looks up and finds you and doesn't startle, because the guilt hasn't hit yet, because he is still, in this moment, certain he has not been seen. Elliot has a particular smile. I've been cataloging it for 6 years without knowing that's what I was doing. There's the smile for clients, wide teeth, a laugh that starts in his chest and sounds generous because it is, in those moments, perfectly genuine. There's the smile for his mother, smaller, slightly careful. A man who is still 12 years old whenever Diane Delaney enters a room. There's the smile he used to give me, the one that started slow, like he was deciding something, like I was still a question worth turning over. And then there's this one. The one he is wearing right now, crossing the marble lobby of the Alderman Hotel, his hand at Serena Voss's back, and her laugh tilted toward him like a satellite dish-finding signal. It's the smile of a man who is certain he is not being watched. I am standing 15 feet away, next to a pillar, holding 2 glasses of champagne. One for me, one for the colleague I've been waiting for, and I watch Elliot's hand move from the small of Serena's back to the elevator button, and I watch him say something into her ear. And I watch her close her eyes for exactly 1 second, and then open them and smile the smile of a woman receiving something she has decided she deserves. The elevator opens. They step inside. The doors close. I stand there with 2 glasses of champagne and I feel, very clearly, the specific sensation of a floor dropping out from under a life you thought you were building. I don't cry. I don't set the glasses down and rush to the elevator and press the button and demand explanations. I am not that kind of woman, and I mean that neutrally. I am not built for public scenes, not because I'm cold, but because something in me goes very quiet when the worst thing happens. I go quiet, and I watch, and I think, and the thinking is faster than the feeling, and for now, that is the only mercy I have. I finish both glasses of champagne. The colleague never shows. I take a cab home. Elliot gets back at 11:15 and says the firm dinner ran late, and I say I know. Those always do, and I watch him move through our kitchen like a man who has just gotten away with something, who is so sure of his own performance that he doesn't notice the audience has already left. I go to bed, I look at the ceiling, I think about the contract. Because here is the thing I cannot stop thinking about. The thing that sits heavier than even what I just saw. In 11 days, I am supposed to sign a renewal agreement that formally embeds my name into Delaney and Voss Legal Consulting as a permanent co-founding partner. My professional reputation, my contacts, my 6 years of client relationships built quietly, methodically, 1 lunch and 1 follow-up call at a time, all of it wrapped around Elliot's name, locked to his vision, made immovable. 11 days. I lie in the dark, and I listen to my husband breathing beside me, and I think, this is what he was counting on. I've known Serena Voss for 4 years, which means I've known her for exactly as long as she and Elliot have been partners. And the thing about Serena is that she is genuinely excellent at her job. I want to say that clearly and without resentment, because unfair requires a clear ledger. She is strategic, she is cool under pressure. She brought in 3 of the firm's largest accounts, and she did it through competence and not through charm alone, which is more than I can say for Elliot. I also want to say clearly, she knew exactly what she was doing. The morning after the hotel, I go into the office because the contract is in 11 days and there are still 3 client proposals that need my sign-off, and I am not the kind of woman who lets the personal become the professional, at least not visibly. I take the elevator to the 14th floor, and I say good morning to Carmen at the front desk, and I pour myself coffee, and I sit at my desk, and I open the proposal for Hartley Crane, and I work. Serena passes my office at 9:40. She pauses in the doorway. She's wearing a dark green dress, and she has that particular stillness that very certain people have, The stillness of someone who has already decided what the situation is. Morning, she says. Morning, I say. Neither of us smiles, which is its own information. We have been smiling at each other for 4 years. The absence of a smile, right now, tells me everything I need to know about how much she knows. She moves on. I look at the door she's left behind, and I think, she's not afraid of me. She's waiting to see what I'll do. She has calculated, correctly, up until very recently, that I won't do anything because of the contract, because of Elliot's mother, because of everything I've built. That is, technically, built around this firm. What she doesn't know is that last night, at 2 a.m, I emailed Cassian Brooke, not to say anything specific, just a single line. I've been thinking about your offer. Can we talk this week? Cassian has been trying to recruit me to Brooke and Aldridge for 2 years. He was my mentor at the firm where I started, before Elliot, before any of this. He is, professionally speaking, the most careful man I know, and the most patient. And when I first turned him down, he said, "The offer stands. It always will. Just say the word." I said the word. The reply is waiting in my inbox when I get back from a client call at noon. Yes, tomorrow if that works. Come at 7, we'll have dinner. I close the email. I open the Hartley Crane proposal. I work until 6 and then I go home and I make dinner. And Elliot comes in at 7:30 and sits down across from me and tells me about his day. And I listen, really listen, because I am cataloging now. Cataloging what he says and what he doesn't say, and what he looks at when he thinks I'm not watching. The renewal paperwork came through, he says, near the end of dinner. Legal says we just need your signature by the 15th. I know, I say. I saw the email. You good? I look at him across our kitchen table. This man I have known for 9 years and married for 6. And I think about the elevator doors closing, and I say, I'm fine, long day. He nods. He checks his phone. Dinner ends. Petra has been sleeping on her own couch since March, which is not actually her couch. It's the couch in the one-bedroom she moved into after David took the house, and she is technically sleeping in her own living room because she says the bedroom still smells like someone else's decisions. I call her the next morning on my way to Cassian's. Talk, she says, instead of, hello, elevator at the Alderman Hotel. I say, 2 nights ago, his hand on her back, her ear tilted to his mouth, the doors closing. A pause. Not the pause of surprise. Petra has never been surprised by Elliot. Not once. Not from the beginning, which is one of those things I understand now with a clarity that should probably embarrass me. How are you? She says. I'm in a cab going to dinner with Cassian Brooke. Another pause. Oh, she says, and then, oh good, I haven't decided anything, Margaux. Her voice is very gentle and very dry at the same time, which is a skill she has had our entire friendship, and which I find inexplicably comforting. You decided. You just haven't caught up to yourself yet. The cab is crossing the bridge and the city is lit up in that particular early evening way that makes everything look like a postcard of a life. And I watch it, and I think about the contract, and I think about Elliot's smile, and I think about 6 years of being the quiet one in a room that was decorated with my work and credited to his name. The contract is in 10 days, I say. Yes, Petra says, I know, that's why you're in the cab. He's going to say, I can't leave legally. Can he? Technically, the partnership agreement has a non-solicit clause and a 1-year non-compete. Cassian has better lawyers than Elliot. Margaux, what? Go to dinner. I go to dinner. Cassian Brooke is 61 years old and looks 52 and has the specific quality of a person who has never once performed calm because they have never actually needed to. He is genuinely calm. It is almost annoying. He meets me at the door of Brooke and Aldridge's building himself, which he didn't have to do, and which tells me something about how seriously he has always taken this offer. You look like you're in the middle of something, he says, as hello, which is also very Cassian. I am, I say. We have dinner in his private conference room. This is also very Cassian because he wants me to remember what the firm looks like, wants me to sit inside it, and let it settle around me, which is exactly the kind of subtle, patient move that makes him genuinely good at what he does. The food is from a restaurant 2 blocks away. He pours the wine himself. "Tell me where you are," he says. So I do. Not everything, not the hotel, not the elevator, but the professional architecture of it. Where my clients are, what my agreements say, what the contract renewal contains, what I would be taking with me. Cassian listens the way he always has, which is completely, without interruption, without the expression that signals he's already forming his response. He waits until I'm fully done, and then he is quiet for a moment, and then he says, "The non-compete is boilerplate. Our legal team looked at it when you first told me about it 2 years ago." He pauses. "I had them look at it in case." I stare at him. "You had them look at my contract 2 years ago. I was optimistic," he says, and he almost smiles. "The non-solicit clause is narrow. It covers clients you actively brought to the firm post-signing. Your pre-existing relationships aren't covered, and most of what you built in the first 3 years predates the agreement." Something in my chest loosens very slowly, like a knot that's been there so long you stopped noticing it was pain. "What are you offering?" I say. "Senior associate partner, effective immediately upon your exit, a full client book with support staff. Your name on the door within 18 months, pending the usual." He looks at me steadily. "Same offer as 2 years ago. I just updated the salary to account for what you've built since." I look at the conference room, the long table, the view. The very particular feeling of a room that already has space for me. That was, I can see this now, always going to have space for me. "I need a few days," I say. "Take what you need," he says. "But Margaux," he sets down his wineglass. "Don't let the timeline be his. You've been on his timeline for 6 years. The contract date is arbitrary. Everything else can be restructured." I drive home. Elliot is already asleep. I stand in the kitchen at 11:30 and I drink a glass of water and I look at the window and I think. 10 days. Diane Delaney is not a villain. I want to say that carefully because the easy version of this story makes her one, and easy versions of people are what got me here in the first place. Diane is a woman who believes in institutions. Marriage, family, the particular structure of a life arranged correctly, with the same absolute faith that other people give to religion. She believes in them, not out of cruelty, but out of genuine conviction, and her conviction, at its softest edges, has an almost touchable warmth, at its least soft, though. Diane calls on Wednesday morning to remind me that Friday is their annual dinner. Tradition, she says, and she says it the way people say sacred text. Elliot's parents, 3 of his cousins, and their spouses, Elliot and me, a table of 10. A house that has held this same dinner for 22 years. We're looking forward to it, I say, because I haven't decided anything yet, not formally, and I am not going to blow up my life over a phone call on a Wednesday. "Good," Diane says. "And Margaux, the contract." Elliot mentioned it's almost time. "I know you've had some hesitation in the past, but I do think it's the right move for both of you. For the family, there it is." This is what I mean when I say she is not a villain. She has not been asked by Elliot to say this. She believes it. She is calling from her own instinct, her own agenda, which is, keep the architecture intact. Keep the marriage contractual in every possible sense. The firm, the name, the arrangement. "Of course," I say, "we'll talk Friday." I hang up the phone and I go to the window and I stand there for a while looking at the street. And I think about the specific texture of a room full of people who have decided in advance who you are. Friday arrives. The dinner is everything I expected. The good china, the wine Diane selected herself, the conversation shaped like a gentle, ongoing reminder of how much weight this family carries and how much it means to belong to it. Elliot is charming. He is always charming in this room, in a way that is genuine, I think. This is the version of Elliot who is loved unconditionally, and the version of Elliot who knows it, and he is, in those conditions, almost the person I married. I sit across the table from Diane and I watch her watching Elliot, and I understand, maybe for the first time, clearly, that for Diane, the marriage has always been downstream of the family. Not because Margaux doesn't matter, but because Margaux, in the arrangement Diane has constructed, is a role more than a person, a role that should stay filled. Halfway through the main course, Elliot's cousin Marcus, 30, a little loud, genuinely funny, leans across the table and says to me, "So I hear the firm's going permanent, your name on the door and everything." Something like that, I say. That's huge. Marcus says he means it, I think. You built half that client base right. From what Elliot says, I look at Elliot. Elliot looks at his plate. Most of it, I say lightly, pleasantly, the way I have learned to say things in this room. And then I take a sip of wine, and I smile at Marcus, and the conversation moves on, and Diane does not look at me, and I sit with the particular weight of a woman who has just heard her husband credit her work while simultaneously stealing it. And I let it sit, and I do not react, and I file it away in the catalog I have been building. I call Petra on Saturday morning. She's been awake since 5. She says she sleeps badly now, that divorce does something to your internal clock that she's waiting for her body to figure out. "Tell me about the dinner," she says. I tell her. The cousin, the comment, Elliot looking at his plate. He says it to their faces. Petra says, to their faces he credits you, and to your face he says nothing. It's more complicated than that. It really isn't. Her voice isn't unkind. Margaux, he credits you when it makes him look good. Generous husband, supportive of his wife's work, lovely man. He erases you when it matters. The contract, the title, the money. Both things are true at the same time. I look out the window at the street. Saturday morning is quiet in our neighborhood. A woman is walking a dog with a very long stride, and 2 kids are on bikes, and it is all very ordinary and very peaceful and completely separate from the wreckage that is apparently happening inside my life. 5 days, I say. The contract, 5 days until I would have signed it. Would have, Petra says. Not a question. I haven't told him yet. I know. A pause. What are you waiting for? I think about this seriously, the way you think about a question when you know the answer is something uncomfortable. I don't know if I trust myself to do it right, I finally say. If I tell him before I've sorted out the legal side, he'll go to his lawyer. If I tell him after I'd signed with Cassian, I lose the element of, I don't know. I lose something. Control, Petra says. Yes, that's new. She says she's right, it's new. Wanting to control the terms of something rather than absorbing whatever terms arrive. It is a small thing, maybe. Or maybe it isn't small at all. The contract signing. I say, he scheduled it for the 15th, Thursday. What day will you tell him? Wednesday, I say, or I'll sign with Cassian on Monday and tell him Wednesday. Go with Monday, Petra says. Don't give yourself the week to talk yourself out of it. She's right again. She usually is. The thing about Petra is that being in the middle of her own divorce has burned away every diplomatic instinct she once had. And what's left is this: clear, direct sight. She can see my situation the way she couldn't see her own, too close, too inside, and the clarity is a gift I didn't ask for, but I need. How are you doing? I say. Actually. A pause. You know what I did this week. What? I called my old professor from law school, the one who told me I should have gone to journalism instead. Professor Almanza, he offered me a column, legal writing, public interest stuff, 2,000 words a month. She says it carefully like she's still deciding if it's real. I said, yes, I feel something open in my chest, warm and startling. Petra, don't make it a thing, she says, but I can hear her smiling. I'm proud of you. Go sign the thing with Cassian, she says, and call me Monday. Monday morning. I sign with Cassian at 9. The paperwork takes 40 minutes, and there is something very strange about the feeling of signing your own name onto your own future. The weight of a pen, the specific solidity of something that is, now, real. Cassian walks me out to the lobby himself. At the door he says, "You're not going to regret this." I know, I say. Your transition agreement gives you 30 days. You don't have to go into the office if you don't want to. I'll go in, I say. I have clients to notify. That should come from me, he nods. He understands this. Be careful with Serena, he says. I look at him. What do you know about Serena? He doesn't answer directly, which is its own answer. She has her own interests, he says. She's had them for a while. Don't assume she wants what Elliot wants. I turn that over in my mind, the whole cab ride to the office. I find out what he means at 11. I'm in the middle of a call with one of my longest-standing clients, Herschel at Crane Group, who has been with me since year 1. When Serena appears in my office doorway, I hold up a finger. She waits. I finish the call and I look at her. She closes the door. She sits down across from me, which she has never done uninvited, and she folds her hands on the desk in a way that is careful and precise, and she says, I heard you had dinner with Cassian Brooke last week. Our world is small. I'm not surprised. I did, I say. Are you leaving? I look at her. Really, look at her. For the first time since the hotel. She is 32, very controlled, very clear-eyed, and she is looking at me right now with an expression I haven't seen on her before, which is something uncertain. Yes, I say. She nods slowly. Then she says something I don't expect. Good, I wait. I want to buy Elliot out, she says. The firm, I want it to be Voss, just Voss. He's been blocking it because… She stops. She recalibrates. She is someone who is very careful about what she admits and what she doesn't. He's been blocking it. Because he's comfortable, I say. She looks at me. He's comfortable with what you've built him. I say, you and I both. She holds my gaze for a moment, and then she says very quietly, I'm sorry for thee. I'm sorry. It's not nothing. It's not everything. It's an acknowledgement from a person who has calculated everything about the situation except how to be in the same room with the other woman in it and look her in the eye. Get a good lawyer, I say. She stands up at the door. She pauses. The Hartley Crane account. That was your relationship from the beginning. I know. I'll make sure the transfer documentation reflects that. I watch her leave. And I sit in my chair for a moment and I breathe and I think about Cassian saying, don't assume she wants what Elliot wants. And I think about the strange specific way that the people in a man's life sometimes understand his flaws more precisely than he does. Tuesday is quiet, which should feel like relief and instead feels like standing at the edge of something and looking down. I spend the day finishing client transfer memos. There are 9 clients whose relationships I'm taking with me, legally, cleanly, because Cassian's lawyers were right, and my pre-existing relationships are mine. Elliot's business development associate will be handling the rest. I write 9 clear, professional, warm emails, and I schedule them to send Thursday morning, 20 minutes after I've told Elliot. I go home Tuesday evening and I make dinner, and Elliot comes home and we eat, and he tells me about a meeting, and I listen. And there is a moment, one moment, right in the middle of his story about something at the office, where he is genuinely himself, unguarded, a little funny. The person who first picked me out of a crowded room 9 years ago and said, you look like you're thinking something you decided not to say. And I remember that that person is real. The problem is not that Elliot is a monster. The problem is that Elliot is a man who needed a woman to be smaller than him in order to feel large, and I was willing, for reasons I am still working out, to be small. Neither of us made this happen alone, but I am the one who is leaving. I sleep badly. I wake at 3 and lie in the dark and run through everything. The timeline, the clients, the legal details, the conversation I need to have tomorrow, what I'll say, and what I won't, where I'll stand. What I won't apologize for, and around 4:30, I give up on sleep, and I go to the kitchen and I make tea, and I sit at the table in the specific dark blue of a night that is already starting to pale at the edges. And I am alone, and it is very quiet, and I hold the mug with both hands, and I let myself feel, for the first time without riot, how much I am going to grieve, not Elliot exactly, not the marriage exactly, but the version of the future I built in my head when I was someone who still believed the floor would hold. The woman who thought, if I do everything right, this will work. Grieving her is its own thing. Letting her go is its own thing. I sit in the kitchen until the window goes gray, and then I make more tea. And then it's morning. I tell Elliot at 7:30 before he can leave for the office, because the only thing worse than this conversation is letting him go into a Wednesday, not knowing, and then Carmen at the front desk asking where the signing paperwork is, and finding out that way. He is in the kitchen. I come downstairs and I say, I need to talk to you before you go. He turns. He has that particular quality of early morning, still slightly unguarded, coffee in hand, the version of Elliot who exists before the day's performance begins. He looks at my face, and something in his expression, just briefly, tells me he already knows something is coming. Maybe not this, but something. I signed with Cassian Brook yesterday. I say, I'm joining Brook and Aldridge. I won't be signing the renewal contract. The silence is not dramatic. This is the thing about real silences. They don't have background music. They don't have a quality of thunder. They are just the particular suspension of sound in a room where something has just become permanent. Elliot puts down his coffee cup. You're leaving the firm, he says. Yes, Cassian Brook. He says the name, the way you say a name when you're trying to find out what it means. When did this? It's been in process for a while, I say. He looks at me, and here is the thing that surprises me that I did not prepare for. His face doesn't close down. It opens in a way I haven't seen in a long time, and what comes through is not anger. Not yet, maybe later, but something that looks almost like recognition. How long? He says. I first talked to him 2 years ago. I turned him down then. I didn't turn him down this time. Why not? I look at him across our kitchen. The morning light is coming through the window. The coffee is still warm. These are the last ordinary moments of this conversation. I saw you, I say, at the Alderman 2 weeks ago. The silence shifts. It gets a different weight. Margaux, I'm not doing this as a reaction to that, I say. And this is the most important thing I have to say, and I say it clearly. I would have had to leave anyway. The contract was always the problem, being permanently tied to something that was never actually mine. I would have gotten there eventually. A pause. But seeing you clarified the timeline. He is very still. He has his hand on the counter, not gripping it, just resting. The way you rest a hand on something solid when the floor is unreliable. I didn't. He starts. I'm not asking for an explanation. I say, I genuinely am not. This conversation is about the firm and the transition. And what's going to happen with the legal agreements. We can talk about the rest of it separately another time with whoever we each want in the room. I look at him. But today I need you to call your lawyer and have them talk to Cassian's team, and I need you to let the transfer documentation go through cleanly. The transfer documentation, he says, 9 clients. They're mine. You know they're mine. He's quiet for a long time and then he says, yes, I know. I pick up my bag at the door. I stop, because there is one more thing, and I have been going back and forth about whether to say it, and I decide, say it. Your mother is going to call you today. I say, she's going to say, I walked away from the family. That's not what happened. I walked away from an agreement that had my name on it, but my fingerprints nowhere. I look at him steadily. I hope you'll be honest with her about the difference I leave. Outside, it is a clean October morning, cool and bright, and the street is waking up, and I walk to the cab I called, and I get in, and the door closes, and I sit in the back and I do not cry. Not because I'm not allowed to, not because I'm strong in some performance of strength, but because, right now, I am so precisely completely inside the moment that there is no room for anything but the feeling of moving forward. My phone buzzes. Petra. Well, I type back. Done 3 dots then. I'm getting champagne. Come over at 7. She calls at noon, which is faster than I expected, which means, Elliot told her before he called his lawyer, which is, I don't know, maybe a kindness giving her the chance to process before the legal conversation begins. Or maybe it's the reflex of a man who has always gone to his mother first. Margaux, she says, and her voice has the quality it gets when she is working to stay measured. I need you to explain this to me. There's not much to explain, I say. I've made a professional decision. The transition documentation will go through Elliot's legal team. I'm not talking about the paperwork. A pause. I'm talking about the marriage. That's a different conversation, Diane. How is it a different conversation? You're leaving the firm. You're clearly leaving. I haven't said anything about the marriage. Silence. Elliot is... She stops. She starts again. He isn't perfect. I know that. But Margaux, what you're doing, leaving this publicly, the firm, and then what comes next? It dismantles everything. And here is the thing I have been working up to, not with rage, not with the catalog of everything I swallowed over 6 years. Just clearly, Diane. I say, I have enormous respect for you. I mean that. And I think you love your son genuinely, and you want him to be happy. But the arrangement you've been protecting, the firm, the name, the marriage as contract, it was never going to make either of us happy. It was going to make us stable. Those aren't the same thing. A very long pause. He told you, she says, about the he told you. I found out, I say. It doesn't change my professional decision, but it did change something else. Another long pause. And then, this is the thing I did not expect from Diane ever in any version of this conversation. She sighs. It's a small sound, and exhausted. And underneath it is something that might be, if I listen carefully, something like grief. I knew something was wrong, she says. I've known for months. I just didn't. I thought if the structure held. The structure was all that was holding, I say gently. That's not the same as a marriage. She doesn't answer, but she doesn't hang up. He needs to be honest, I say, with himself, with you, with whoever comes next for him. That's not my job anymore, but I hope someone holds him to it. I will, she says, very quiet. Meaning it, we hang up. I sit in my new office. Cashin had a space ready, which is very Cashin, and I look at the window, and it has started to rain, soft and gray and thoroughly autumnal, and I put my hand flat on the desk, and I feel for the first time in a long time the specific sensation of being in a room that fits. A week passes. I'm not going to pretend it's easy because lying about that would ruin the whole thing. There are 3 days in a row where I wake up, and my first feeling is grief, clean and solid. The grief for the woman who sat across from Elliot at dinner for 6 years and smiled and thought, if I do enough, if I'm good enough, if I hold enough, but grief and regret are different things. I'm not confused about which one I have. The transition goes smoothly, legally. Elliot's lawyer is professional, Cassian's is precise, and the 9 clients are documented as mine without contest. Serena sends one email through her own attorney, separate from Elliot's dealing with the Hartley Crane account specifically. Everything transferred cleanly, and at the bottom, 3 words that are not legally required, and therefore are, I think, an actual human thing. Thank you, Margaux. By the 2nd week, I am sleeping better. I'm learning the rhythms of Brooke and Aldridge, which are different from what I'm used to. Quieter in some ways, more deliberately paced, the specific culture of a firm that is very sure of itself, and therefore has nothing to prove. Cassian checks in once a day, never more. A quality I find I need badly, after 6 years of a man who needed me to know at all times that I was witnessed. Petra is writing her first column. She reads me the draft on a Tuesday night over the phone, and it's good, really good, and I tell her so, and she says, with the careful voice of someone trying not to want something too much, "You think?" "I think," I say. "It sounds like you." That might not be a compliment. It's the best compliment. I say, on the Thursday of the 2nd week, I get a text from a number I don't immediately recognize. And then I do. "Elliot, can we meet?" Not about legal stuff. Just, can we? I look at it for a long time, and then I think, yes, that's the right thing. Leaving cleanly means being able to have the conversation. Eventually, not because anything can be undone, but because we were 9 years to each other and that deserves language. I type back, next week. Coffee. I'll pick the place. He responds, okay, thank you. That night I go home to the apartment I've been staying in, Petra's spare room, because I wasn't ready to find my own place yet, and she wasn't ready to stop having someone in the other room. And I make dinner and I eat it at the kitchen table and I feel carefully something that is not happiness exactly, but is in the direction of it. And then my phone rings and it is Diane. My stomach drops very slightly. I answer, I'm calling because I owe you something, she says. No greeting, very Diane. I wait. I spoke to Elliot. We had a long conversation, a difficult one, she pauses. He told me some things about the firm, about how things were divided, about… She stops, stalls again. I think I've been protecting something that wasn't worth protecting. I'm quiet. I also think, she says, that I may have made it harder for you over the years. The dinners, the family expectation. I wasn't doing it to you intentionally, but that doesn't mean it wasn't difficult. No, I say. It doesn't mean that. I'm not asking you to forgive anything, she says. I just wanted you to know that I understand more than I did. I sit with this, and then I say, thank you, Diane. That means something. After she hangs up, I sit in Petra's kitchen, and I feel the particular unexpected sensation of something loosening that I had not known was still tightly held. Not forgiving Elliot. I'm not there yet, and I don't know if I'll get there or in what form. But something with Diane. Something that was locked and is now just open. I'm still sitting there when Petra comes in from her evening walk. You look weird, she says. Good weird or bad weird, she considers open weird. Diane called. I say, Petra sits down, I tell her, and she listens with her whole self, the way she has for 20 years. And at the end, she says, I know, the mother apologized approximately. That never happens, Petra says. I know, I say again, and then something happens that I was not expecting. I laugh. A real laugh, short and startled, the kind that breaks out of you without permission. And Petra laughs too, and we are sitting in her kitchen in the autumn dark, laughing at the sheer, impossible, specifically strange shape that life has taken. And it is genuinely and completely all right. The crack comes on Friday. I'm at Brooke and Aldridge just after 4 when Cassian knocks on my office door and comes in with the particular expression he has when information has arrived that he'd rather not carry. Elliot's calling the non-compete, he says. I look at him. He signed off on the transition documentation. He did. This is his personal lawyer, not the firm's. He's arguing your Crane Group relationship developed under the firm's resources, even pre-contract. I feel something tighten in my chest, not panic, but the specific cold clarity of a fight arriving earlier than expected. He has no case, I say. He doesn't, Cassian says, but it could take 60 days to resolve if he pushes it. And he knows that I sit very still. And then he's doing it because I texted him about coffee. Cassian looks at me. I texted him about meeting, I say. He read it as he thought it meant I was uncertain. He's pushing because he thinks there's still leverage. Cassian is quiet for a moment. What do you want to do? I think about Elliot putting down his coffee cup on a Wednesday morning. I think about this specific calculation of a man who has never quite believed that people leave him completely. And then I think about something Petra said months ago before any of this. Margaux, you always give him just enough of an opening. Cancel the coffee, I say. Have your team respond by end of business, firmly. Done, Cassian says. He turns to go, and at the door, he stops. You're sure? Yes, I say. I'm sure. He nods, and he leaves, and I sit in my office at Brooke and Aldridge on a rainy Friday afternoon, and I feel, underneath the cold clarity of it, something else entirely. The specific sensation of a door closing, finally, from my side. The non-compete challenge resolves in 18 days, not 60, because Cassian's lawyers are exactly as good as he said, and because Elliot's case is, as predicted, nothing. During those 18 days, I go to work every morning and I do the work, which is good work, and I take 3 new client meetings and I close 2 of them, and I eat lunch with Cassian on Tuesdays, and I call Petra every 2 or 3 days, and I slowly, incrementally learn what it feels like to be in a structure that was built to have me in it, rather than one that was built around me as an afterthought. Petra's first column runs on a Tuesday. It's about divorce law and what it costs women specifically. Written with her particular quality of precision that is never cold, she can be exact and warm at the same time, which is harder than it sounds. She texts me a link at 8 in the morning. It's out, if you want to read it. I read it on my phone on the way to the office, and I text her back, "This is so good. I'm so proud of you. Please keep going." She sends back a single emoji. A small yellow figure with its face pressed against its palms, too overwhelmed to respond in words. It makes me laugh out loud in the back of a cab, which startles the driver. I have not heard from Elliot since Cassian's team responded to his lawyer. This is, I decide, the appropriate amount of contact for now. Not forever. We have history, and that deserves something eventually, some acknowledgement in both directions. But for now, the silence is clean, and I'm letting it be clean. The non-compete resolves on a Thursday afternoon. Cassian emails me the confirmation at 4:58, and in the subject line, which is legally impeccable and emotionally very Cassian, he writes, "This chapter, done." I close the laptop. I put on my coat. I go outside into the cool October evening and I walk for a while. Just walk. Through streets I've walked my whole adult life in this city, and which look right now slightly different. Not dramatic, not movie different, but slightly. The way a room looks different when you've moved the furniture and then spent enough time in the rearrangement that it starts to look like the room always was this way. This chapter needs its own space because it's a small thing, and small things are where the real ones live. My first week in the office at Brook and Aldridge, I'd come in on a Tuesday morning with one earring. Not on purpose. I'd been running late, distracted, and I'd put in one earring and forgotten the other. I hadn't noticed until I sat down at my desk and caught my reflection in the dark screen of my computer. I'd sat there looking at myself, one small gold hoop in the right ear, nothing in the left, and I'd felt suddenly and disproportionately like crying, not about the earring, about the accumulation. About the years of being slightly incomplete and carrying it without making a fuss, without saying, "Actually, wait, I need one more minute," without claiming the small ordinary right to be fully put together before the day began. Cassian's assistant, a woman named Dora, who is 57 and has been with the firm for 20 years and is quietly the most competent person in the building, had knocked and brought in my morning messages. She'd looked at me. She'd looked at my ears. She'd reached into the small dish on her desk that I later learned she keeps specifically for the earrings people leave behind in conference rooms, and she produced a gold hoop, almost identical to mine, and she'd set it on the corner of my desk without a word. "That happens to me every other week," she'd said. "The right side always remembers. The left side doesn't know what to do with itself." And she'd left. I'd put in the earring. I'd looked at myself in the dark screen, both ears, fully there. I'd thought, yes, that's right. I don't know why I'm telling this now. Except that I am, 3 months later, still wearing both earrings every morning. And every morning when I put in the second one, I feel, briefly and specifically, the fact that I am doing something I get to choose to do correctly. That's it. Just that. December arrives with that specific quality of city December that is simultaneously festive and exhausting, the compressed light and the heightened expectations, to the way everyone is moving slightly faster towards something they can't name. I am not in December completely whole. I want to be honest about that, because the alternative is a lie that sounds better but lands wrong. I have weeks that are harder than others. I have evenings where I sit in the apartment I've found, my own. Finally, 2 rooms and a kitchen and a window that faces east. and I miss things I didn't even know I'd grown used to. Not Elliot specifically, or not only the company of someone who knows you, even imperfectly, the weight of a shared history, even one that didn't hold. But I am also in December, genuinely building something. The Hartley Crane account is producing results that Crane Group CFO calls remarkable, which is a word he uses very rarely, and which gives me a specific and private satisfaction that I allow myself to enjoy. Two of the other clients have sent referrals. My name, which has been on Cassian's door in small letters since November, is being moved to slightly larger letters in January. Not partnership yet, but the direction is clear. I have dinner with Petra on the first Thursday of December. She's moved into the bedroom of her apartment. Finally. She says it just happened one night. She walked in and lay down and slept until morning. And when she woke up, it smelled like her. Her second column is out. Her third is drafted. Professor Almanza, it turns out, has been sending her column to editors he knows. I got an email, she says, over dinner, from a magazine, an actual magazine. What kind? She names it. I put my fork down. Petra, I know. That's I know, she says again. And she is working very hard not to smile the size of smile she actually has, which is large, and which is the most Petra thing I've seen in years. We order dessert. We split it. We walk afterward through the cold December streets, and we talk the way we have always talked, about everything, about nothing, looping back, going wide, and at her door she stops and turns and says, "Do you think we would have gotten here anyway?" Without all of it, I think about this seriously. No, I say. I think we needed the thing to break before we could see the door. She nods. That seems unfair. A little, I say. She hugs me, which she does rarely, and therefore meaningfully, and then she goes inside, and I walk to my cab in the cold December night, and I look up at the sky, which has that specific dark blue of a city winter sky, before it goes fully black, and I breathe and it tastes clean. January, the firm's first all-partner meeting of the year, which I am not yet a partner, but am invited to because Cassian has decided, in his undemonstrative way, to begin behaving as though the thing is already true. The meeting is on a Tuesday morning. There are 11 people around the table, plus me, and I am watching and listening and getting the architecture of how this room works. And I think, I can work in this room. I know how to be in a room like this. Cassian speaks for 20 minutes about the year's outlook, which is good, several new sectors, 2 potential large accounts, a merger consideration that may or may not materialize. He is very precise and very clear, and he does not perform confidence. He simply has it, and the room operates around it. At the end of the meeting, he says, "One more thing. I'd like to move Margaux's partnership track up by 3 months, contingent on the Hartley Crane renewal in March." 11 people look at me. I do not blush because I decided some time ago that I was done performing smaller than I am in any room that contains my own work. "Thank you," I say, directly to Cassian and to the table. "I'll have the March renewal in hand by February 15th. Cassian nods. The meeting ends. Dora catches me in the hallway afterward. She gives me a look, precise, satisfied, and then she hands me my messages for the morning and moves on, efficient and entirely undemonstrative, which is exactly right. March, the Hartley Crane renewal signs on a Thursday. It is, financially, the single largest thing I have put my name to in my professional life, and it takes 4 hours and 2 rounds of negotiation and goes exactly the way I said it would in the projection I wrote in January, which I am allowed to feel good about. At 5 o'clock, Cassian knocks on my office door. He is carrying a bottle of wine, not champagne, specifically not champagne, which is also very him, because champagne is for performance, and this, he has always said, is just work being done. And 2 glasses, and he comes in and pours and sits down across from me and says, "The partnership vote is next Tuesday." It's a formality. I know, I say. The door will be changed next Friday. Brooke, Aldridge, and Delaney, my name. On a door, built from materials I brought myself. I look at him, and I think about all the things I want to say, which are mostly not sayable in the way feelings are not sayable in professional contexts. And instead I say, "Thank you for being patient." "I wasn't patient," he says. "I was just right." He says it without smugness. Just the specific clarity of a man who made a correct assessment and waited it out. "You would have gotten here one way or another. I just made the landing softer." We drink the wine. The evening settles into the office. Outside, the city is doing what the city does. Moving, loud, entirely indifferent to the interior events of any given Thursday. And I sit in my chair in my office at the firm that has my name on the door, and I feel something I have been working toward, quietly, for a long time. The specific, grounded sensation of being exactly where I chose to be. My phone buzzes. "Petra, you signed it." I text back. "Done." She sends back, "Champagne tonight. The real kind." "Yes." 7 o'clock. I put down my phone. I look at the window. The evening light is coming through, that specific warm amber of a March late afternoon when winter is finally over and the city looks washed and clear, and I reach up without thinking and touch my left ear, where a gold earring is, as it has been every morning for 3 months, exactly where it should be. Both of them, every morning. A small, ordinary ritual of choosing deliberately to be complete before the day begins. I put on my coat. I take my bag. I leave. At the lobby, I stop because Dora is still at her desk. She always works late. This is just who she is. And she looks up and sees my face, and she says without preamble, "Good day." "Very," I say. She looks at my ears. Both earrings. Both there. She nods, once with the quiet satisfaction of someone who found the right hoop in the right dish at the right moment and knew it would matter. I go outside into the March evening. The air is cold and clean and smells like the city starting over, and Petra is waiting at 7 o'clock with champagne she has already put in the freezer, and my name is going on a door next Friday, and I did not get here by staying small. I didn't get here by staying at all.